Blocks will be useful today if you have blocks. And if you don't have blocks, if you have little objects you could use as blocks, that would also be useful. And if you don't have that, your imagination will suffice. And we're going to start standing. And to start, just step your feet apart a little bit, sweep your arms up to the degree that they want to come up, and then drop your left arm, stretch over towards the left. So you're leaning through your side, and then start to bend your knees. And once you get to a point where you don't want to lean anymore, you can start turning your chest down towards the floor and folding to whatever degree you like. So you might fold halfway down, you might fold all the way down. And once you get to where you want to be, sweep yourself over to the right, and you can stretch your right arm over and up and kind of follow your arm as you cartwheel yourself up. And then reverse that. So you lean over. You know, I'm not sure if I'm mirroring you or if I messed that up, but essentially you're coming into a side bend and then moving into a forward bend and coming back up and then reversing. And you can do this like it's not a precise movement. Do this to make it feel good or to make it feel like it's doing you some good. So you might get a side stretch in, you might get a forward fold in, maybe a stretch through the backs of your legs, maybe through your back. And just move at your own pace. Making sure that you're breathing as you move. And you can keep soft knees here. You can bend them as much as you like. And you can change it up any way that feels good. Try this a couple more times before coming back to center. Now, once you're back centered, you can find mountain pose. Just take a moment to notice how you're feeling after moving that way. You might take a few deep breaths as you're doing this. And then if it feels good to you, take a really deep inhale through your nose and sigh it out through your mouth. And then if your eyes are closed, you can open them. And if you have a block, grab your block. And place your block between your ankles. So you can place it on whatever setting feels right, feels stable to you. So I'm going to place mine on the wide setting so that I have a little wider stance. So you're just squeezing it in between your ankles. And we've done this before. So maybe lift all your toes, spread them out and drop them down. And then as you're ready, come up on your tiptoes, making an effort not to drop your block, and then come back down. Try that a few times. So lifting up, noticing what it feels like to have the feedback of that block, and then lifting or dropping back down, lifting up and dropping down. And you can do it as slowly or quickly as you like. You might try it a few different ways. So maybe you try it slowly and holding it and moving as slowly as possible. And then maybe you try it a few times, just lifting up and down, seeing what the difference is. So sometimes when we move more quickly with a little more momentum, it might be that our balance isn't challenged as much. But other things are challenged. So there's a little more power involved, a little more like, you might say explosive power, but gentle probably, because I don't know, many of us didn't get enough sleep and this is not a huge movement, but you might feel it in your calves. And when you do it more slowly, there's more balance involved. And that sensation might move around quite a bit. It might involve a lot of the little supporting muscles. You might feel it in your toes. And you can do anything you want with your arms. If you want to place a hand somewhere for assistance balancing, that's great. If you want to slap them around, that's great. Sometimes it's nice to bring a little perturbation in. They call it perturbation when you're balancing, and you add a little movement that might make it more difficult. And sometimes just using your arms as a counterbalance can be nice. But try it a couple more times. And whenever you're ready, you can pause and pop that block out. And check in and see what your calves are feeling like. So one thing you could do here would be to place your block in front of you and place the toes of one of your feet on that block and kind of scoot yourself closer to the block so you can feel a stretch through that calf, which might be nice after using that muscle over and over. And whenever you're ready, you can try it with the other leg. And always something to consider when stretching. You can stretch any way that feels good. And if the aim of your stretching is to gain more flexibility in that particular area, it's useful to not force things too much, to just kind of go to like, I think it's something like, well, it's definitely not 100%. It's somewhere, I think, in the more like 60% range of what you're feeling, and holding it for 30 to 60 seconds at a time is what they say to do, and up to 5 minutes per week. So once that feels like you've had enough of that, you can maybe shake both legs out a little bit. And then grab both your blocks if you have to. Place them in front of you. Find a comfortable stance, and then lift your right toes and tap your right block and set those toes down. And then lift your left toes and tap your left block and set those back down. And then continue switching back and forth, going as slowly or as quickly as you like, using anything to assist you with your balance. So today we're going to be kind of working with pivoting, shifting directions, and kind of things that tend to be a little more useful in everyday life in terms of how we actually move. So very often it's this kind of unpredictable thing where we're moving through our day and we have to stop and shift in another direction, whether that's because, shoot, I forgot my whatever, or my coat got caught on the door handle, or all of a sudden I'm tripped and I'm trying not to fall down the steps. So all kinds of things that happen in everyday life. And being able to shift our weight and control where it is at any time can be very useful. So you can continue to tap one block and then tap the other. Or if you'd like to try something else, one thing you might try doing is to take one of the blocks and set both of your blocks up so you have one block in front of your foot and one block beside your foot. And you want a little bit of space in between so that you can maneuver here. And then try tapping the block that's in front of you, placing your foot down, and tapping the block that's beside you and placing your foot down. And just continuing to do that a few times with the aim of controlling your weight, controlling your balance, and really knowing where you are in space. So if you knock your block over, that's totally fine. You can just set it back up. And if that happens, it's a good thing to keep in mind that that is how we learn. So when that sort of thing happens, you know that your brain is getting this information and learning pretty effectively. And if tapping is going really well, you could continue tapping. You might also consider adding that thing that we've tried before, which is to circle your foot around the block. Maybe then put your foot down, circle it around your other block. And if you feel like you really enjoy this circling thing, you might circle it around one and then around the other and then place your foot down. Or consider hovering your foot for extended periods. You might also consider finding a pattern. Maybe you circle around the front block and then tap the side block. So take a couple of minutes to really play around with that and see, like, how can you make it useful? How can you make it fun? Either tapping or circling or trying a combination. Taking as many breaks as you need, noticing where your body is working. And I'm kind of tapping my hip here because that's where my body is working. And whenever it feels complete on that side, feel free to switch to the other side. So you'll just be setting up your blocks, same way on the opposite side, one in front and one to the side. And maybe you start out by tapping, placing your foot down, and then tapping the other block. Or maybe you head right into whatever you're doing on the other side. Make sure you're breathing as you do this. Try that a couple more times. And whenever you're ready, you can place your blocks at the front of your mat. From here, find mountain pose. Pause for a moment and notice how you're feeling after messing around with your blocks for a while. And then when you're ready, ground down through your left foot. Lift your right foot and tap your right block. Then set that foot back down and step your left foot behind you into a lunge. So you can keep your back heel up or place it down. And then when you're ready, place that back heel down if it's not down, and see what it's like to toe heel that foot forward. And then try that a couple more times. So you're taking your right foot, tapping your right block, dropping that foot down, stepping your left foot back into a lunge, and then toe heeling your left foot back forward. Tapping your right block, dropping your right foot, stepping your left foot back, dropping that heel, toe heeling that foot forward. Try that a couple more times. And when you're finished on that side, we're going to try it on the other side. So as you're ready, just take a moment to take a deep breath, maybe sigh it out. And then bring all your weight into your right leg. Lift your left foot, tap your left block, drop that foot down, and then step your right leg back into a lunge. Drop that heel, and then try toe heeling that foot forward. Try it a few times. So left foot up, touching the block, dropping it down, and then stepping back with your right foot. And notice if the switching legs and then trying out these maybe slightly awkward moves tends to throw off your balance. And notice where you're placing your feet. So when you're stepping that right foot back, sometimes it can be useful to make sure that you're not stepping it right behind your left foot, but keeping a little bit of a wider lateral stance. Try that 1 or 2 more times. And once you've finished that, come to face the long edge of your mat. Come into what for you feels like a normal standing position. And then try toe heeling one of your feet out into a wide-legged stance. Doesn't have to be super wide, just something that feels okay for you to be in. And then shorten that stance by bringing the other leg, toe heel, back to the first leg that you stepped out. And then reverse that. So essentially, you're just toe heeling yourself out into a wide-legged stance, and then toe heeling yourself into a short stance. And once you've done it a few times, you might try doing it with both feet. So coming into your short stance and then toe heeling out into that wide-legged stance using both feet. If that feels like a good challenge to you, if it feels appropriate. If it feels like, no, that's not going to work for me today, you can continue doing it with one leg and then the other. And then once you're back in that wide-legged stance, maybe you try toe heeling back in with both legs. So try variations of this as it feels useful to you. So these pivoting moves with your feet and ankles really tends to work all of those muscles that are responsible for helping us switch direction quickly at any moment. And one other thing that you might consider trying here, you can continue with any of those things. You might just try traversing around the room a little bit by pivoting on your heels and your toes in any way. So you might do it 1 foot at a time. You might do it both feet at a time. You might take it off your mat if you have an appropriate surface to pivot around on. Might be kind of fun, might be a little bit like dancing, a little bit. And I see that Mark is trying something interesting here. He's on a wooden floor, so he's placed his socks under his feet. That might be something that you might want to try or not. My feet are a little sweaty and I'm sticking to my floor here.
That's why I have the socks.
Ah, that's why the socks work. Whenever you're ready, you can come back to center and just notice like how are you feeling? How did that feel to do? Maybe take a moment to shake a little. So you might start bouncing a bit, maybe hopping a little, and just kind of shaking your body out a little. Maybe lifting one foot and the other, coming into this shake wiggle sort of thing that we very often do. Maybe you take a few deep breaths as you're doing it. And whenever you're ready, you can slow that down, come back to center. And if both of your blocks are not at the top of your mat, you can go ahead and place them there. So come into mountain pose. Send all of your weight into your left foot. Lift your right foot and tap your right block. Place your right foot back down on the mat. Step your left foot back into a long lunge. So you're here in your lunge. Straighten through your right leg. And then try to pivot yourself around to face the long edge of your mat, moving your feet in whatever way feels like, yeah, that'll work for me. And then maybe pivot back to face the front. And you might try that a couple of times. So you get to decide which foot pivots first, or if you're doing both at the same time, and whether you're pivoting your toes or your heels, or a combination. And once you've tried it a few times, the next time you're facing the long edge of your mat in your wide-legged stance, if you'd like to try a forward fold, you might hinge from your hips, maybe come halfway down, maybe continue to fold, dropping your body and your head towards the ground. Your choice. And if you're folding, maybe you take a few breaths in your forward fold. Noticing if you feel a stretch anywhere. And then if you're all the way down, come halfway up. And as you're ready, lift yourself all the way up. And then find a way to face the front of your mat. So maybe you try this pivoting thing again. And then you can come forward any way you'd like, but maybe you try pivoting that back foot forward and coming back into mountain. And then we'll try it on the other side. So from here, bring all of your weight into your right leg. Lift your left foot, tap your block, drop that foot down, and step your right foot back into your lunge. Drop that heel, find your balance, straighten your front leg, and see about pivoting a couple of times between facing the front and facing the side of your mat. then as you're ready, if you're facing the long edge of your mat, maybe you try a forward fold. If you're in your forward fold, take your time coming halfway up and then lifting yourself all the way up. And you decide how to come back to the front of your mat or how to bring your legs together into a regular width stance, whether that involves pivoting or stepping. Take a moment in mountain pose. Maybe check in with your feet, your ankles and your calves. They've done a lot of work. See how they're feeling. And then take your time coming down into a seated position on your mat. Decide if you'd like to prop your hips up with a cushion or a block. From here, place the sole of your left foot on the ground with your knee bent, aiming up, and extend your right leg out long in front of you. See if you can sit up tall and notice if this feels comfortable. You can stay here. You might also consider, if it feels okay, stepping that left foot over your right leg. And then from here, keeping your left hand on your right knee, wherever it is, if your leg is stepped over your, if your foot is stepped over your leg or not, extend your left arm behind you, place the fingertips of that hand on the ground and come into a twist towards the left. So you're turning your body towards the left. You can decide if you want to keep your head in a neutral position or if you'd like to turn your head to look over your left shoulder. And as you inhale here, you might think about lifting up tall through your spine, finding some length. And as you exhale, you might focus on feeling into that twist. When you're ready, you can unwind, and we'll try it on the other side. So bring your left leg out straight. Bend your right leg, place the foot, that sole of that foot on the ground, and decide, do you want to keep it there or do you want to step it over your left leg? Bring your left hand to your right knee, right fingertips behind you, and come into your twist. When you're ready, you can unwind. Bring both of your legs out in front of you and just kind of gently bend and straighten each leg. So you're kind of sort of massaging your calves on the ground a little bit here. Just kind of gently lifting and lowering your knee so that your calves kind of get wobbled around here on the ground and gently knocked into the floor. And then as you're ready, you can bring the soles of your feet together and allow your knees to come out to the side. Decide how far in you want to bring your feet and decide if you'd like to place blocks under your knees for support here or not. Just depends on what's most comfortable for you. But focus on sitting up tall, pressing your feet together gently. And then if you feel like you're not forcing anything, you might consider folding forward. So maybe you have your hands on your ankles. I like to interlace my hands and fingers and bring them around my toes here. And if you are folding forward, just make sure you're not like forcing things and overly rounding through your back, but just have a normal, gentle, natural round in your back and fold from your hip crease. And whatever version of Baddha Konasana or bound angle you're in here, think about slowing down your breath if that feels comfortable to you, and maybe extending your exhales out a little bit longer than your inhales. If you're folded forward, you can come up. And then we've just got 5 minutes left. So take your time shifting yourself into whatever position you would like to take Shavasana in. So if you want to lay down, you can lay down. If you'd like to sit in more of a seated meditation position, you can do that. Whatever is going to feel restful to you. And for Shavasana, if you'd like to close your eyes, you can close your eyes. But really, you don't have to try to do anything. See if you can just rest.